I am 41 years old and male. My wife is 39 years old. My wife doesn't work due to a minor disability. It's not as if she cannot work, but she complains of discomfort and exhaustion all the time. The discussion over her working basically ended 5 years ago, and I have completely given up on the prospect of her ever having a job again. Seeing as she doesn't even come close to qualifying for disability and brings in no income, we currently live entirely off my salary. I do not mind financially supporting her, but my wife's spending habits have gradually become more and more reckless. It began with her ordering takeout twice a week, and then that escalated into 3 times a week, and now she's ordering takeout nearly every day. This is all despite our fridge being stocked constantly. I do the shopping, and I make sure to even keep our freezer full of things she would only have to microwave. Last month was a particularly heavy one for her. She spent $1,176 on delivery apps alone. We cannot afford this. There were several days that she ordered twice. I may have reacted harshly, but on Friday, I pulled money out of our savings, completely paid off the card, and then canceled it. I then removed all the money from our joint account and funneled it into my own account. Apparently, my wife learned this when she tried to order takeout. She tried to call the company, who explained the card had been canceled. She texted me asking what had happened, and I responded that she was cut off. Well, when I walked in the door that evening, my wife was lying on the floor dramatically saying that she had low blood sugar. I told her she could eat any of the food we have in our fridge or freezer. I also noticed that she took the garbage out, probably for the first time in a decade. I'm surprised she even knew where the outdoor bin was. I can only assume she was disposing of the evidence of what she ate, as she was pretending to have not eaten. But I honestly don't care enough to dig through the garbage to find it. She was furious at me all weekend. Was what I did over the top? Top comments. Commenter 1. NTA $1,176 on takeout? That's a half a month's wages for me. No, this needs to stop, and the manipulation with the blood sugar thing is beyond overdramatic, and the fact she took then garbage after years of not doing proves she knows what she is doing. Commenter 2. NTA. While your wife spent close to my food, fuel, entertainment, clothing, etc. budget for the month just on takeout. She needs to get a job, part-time at a minimum. Why are you still married? Update 1. 9 days ago, I made a post about how my unemployed wife had spent $1,176 on delivery apps in just a month. This is egregiously outside of what we can afford to spend on takeout, and since she didn't seem willing to stop, I canceled our credit card and moved the money from our joint account into my own. For the following few days, my wife kept talking about how I was financially abusing her. She threw several tantrums despite apparently being severely malnourished, threatened divorce, threw a bunch of the food we had in the fridge away to try and strong-arm me into letting her get takeout, and even tried to guess my bank account password a bunch of times. Sorry, my password isn't Taco Bell 123. That last one was how I learned if you try to guess someone's bank account password enough times, the bank will send them an automated email. But last Friday, the complaints and threats stopped. She seemed mostly back to normal. I figured she had given up. That was until today, which was garbage day. When I took the last bag out before taking the bin down to the curb, I discovered half a dozen fast food bags and other takeout containers in it. My wife wasn't supposed to have access to money. I had no idea how she was affording the food. I confronted her about it, and first she denied everything. I had to bring all of her fast food garbage in to get her to fess up. She had taken out a loan. Now, I thought that she had borrowed money from a friend or family member, but she had taken out one of those predatory payday loans. Before you ask, no, I have no idea how she was approved. Within the next hour, I froze my credit. I then drove her to the payday loan place, where I paid the loan off in cash. I will now have to dip further into my savings to pay the rent. I suppose in a certain way, cutting her off was successful. She didn't order takeout anymore. She just drove to the restaurants to pick up her food, for the low price of $20 for every $100 she borrowed, or $60 in fees in total. In addition, I told her that we would be getting divorced. So yeah, my marriage is over. I don't even know what alimony laws in my state are like, but I assume she'll happily live in a cardboard box under a bridge if Uber Eats will bring her food there. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I think divorce is the best course of action here. She needs professional help, but that's not your problem anymore. I'm glad you took steps to protect yourself financially. Sadly, there is just fundamentally something wrong with her, and soon she'll self-destruct, starting with the divorce. OP. When I paid off the payday loan, I decided that would be the last thing I ever did for her. It was far more than she deserved. My sister has been addicted to heroin for over 20 years. I haven't talked to her in about a decade, but this was the kind of shit that she would pull. I remember how she and her loser boyfriend would steal shit from my room to pawn so they could buy more drugs, And I honestly wouldn't put it past my wife at this point to start selling my things so she could buy more Chipotle. I'm sorry. I'm just so furious. As I worked every day, my wife sat around ordering takeout and living like a queen. And when the almost literal gravy train stopped, she decided to imperil our financial future for more food. And my God, she has gotten so fat. She's basically waddling around like a penguin now. But what really fucking pisses me off is that after taking out that payday loan, instead of putting it into a new account at Order Takeout, she wanted the restaurant drive-thrus. It was almost as if she wanted to stretch it to last for as long as possible, which wasn't an issue when it was money that I earned. She knew that the payday loan was probably a one-time Hail Mary, so she actually, in her own twisted little way, tried to exercise financial responsibility. People in the last post yelled at me for not communicating. We had fought about this dozens of times. Every time the credit card bill rolled in, I would tell her she needed to stop, that we were losing everything because of her habit. I told her again and again and again, but she didn't give a shit. She needed more of that garbage. I honestly don't give a fuck. If she's depressed, I don't care. If she's agoraphobic, which I doubt, I don't care. She has never shown even the slightest bit of remorse. Eventually, even my sister with her heroin-addled brain apologized for stealing my GameCube. My wife couldn't even do that. She's a lazy piece of shit faking a disability, and people were blaming me as if that absolved her of all wrongdoing. If it makes me an asshole, fine. I'm not fucking up the rest of my life because some dim-witted sloth with a disability can only muster up the energy to get off her ass when it involves food she bought with money that someone else earned. Commenter 2. I'm sorry to read this update, OP. Given that she risked tanking her credit for something as dumb as a payday loan, it seems like this might be about more than takeout and could indicate a deeper emotional problem for her. I hope that she addresses it before her life unravels and that you find some peace after the separation. OP, I honestly don't even care about her anymore. I'm actually kind of happy about the payday loan. You see, I read through every comment in the last post, all of them, and I tried to understand her feelings. People kept telling me that she had mental health issues or that she needed therapy. I did my best to understand, and I was actually going to start giving her $300 of prepaid credit card spending money every month as was suggested. Could we typically afford $300 per month on her takeout? Not really, no, but it would have been something for her to look forward to. Now all I can think is that with her issues, she was allowed to be as self-centered as she wanted. But when was it going to be my turn to have something for myself? My work boots have a giant hole in them that I've duct taped closed twice, and that $1,176 would have bought me the best work boots out there. So I had people wagging a finger at me in the last post. You're an asshole for how you treat her for her disability. Fuck her disability, fuck her, and fuck the people who said this was somehow all my fault. But I'm sure the same people will show up with some delusional fantasy about her having a wonderful post-breakup glow-up or something. Update 2. Well, here I am again. Things have escalated far beyond what I could have imagined since my last update. I didn't think my life could get more absurd. So, after I made it clear that divorce was happening, my wife, who I can now only refer to as my soon-to-be ex, went from a tantrum-throwing mess to what I can only describe as eerily calm. Like, too calm. At first, I thought maybe she'd finally come to terms with the reality of the situation. Boy, was I wrong. Turns out, she had her own game plan, and it was as outrageous as everything else she's pulled in the last few months. On Monday, I came home to find half the furniture missing from our house. Now, we don't exactly live in a mansion, but the essentials TV, couch, even my desk chair were just gone. My immediate thought? She sold it all. But no, that would have been too logical. Instead, she'd moved it all to her parents' place, just in case things got messy during the divorce. As if we were about to start smashing things WWE style. Like, seriously? When I confronted her about it, she hit me with the line, "I'm preparing for my future." As if she's now suddenly Marie Kondo'd her way to enlightenment. She even had the nerve to ask if she could take my gaming console, only thing left in the house that brings me any joy, because, apparently, I wouldn't need it much longer. I didn't think it was possible, but she somehow managed to go from infuriating to outright delusional. But it gets better. She hired a lawyer. Now, I'm not against legal representation. I've got my own lawyer now, obviously, but how the hell is she paying for this? Turns out, she's opened a GoFundMe for her divorce battle. I couldn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. The description? Struggling disabled wife seeks support in her time of need. Disabled, as if her only disability isn't being addicted to takeout. And people were actually donating. Some folks really will believe anything they read online. At this point, I was equal parts enraged and impressed at her audacity. But then, Just when I thought the situation couldn't get more ridiculous, it did. Yesterday, I got a call from my bank. Apparently, my credit card was flagged for suspicious activity again. Except this time, it wasn't just a few $100s on Uber Eats. Oh no, my soon-to-be ex had used my social security number to apply for a new credit card in my name. And get this, she maxed it out in less than 48 hours. I'm talking $10,000 on what appears to be an all-out takeout binge. It's like she decided, well, if we're burning this whole thing down, let's go out with a bang. So now, not only am I knee-deep in divorce proceedings, but I also have to deal with identity theft from my own wife. When I confronted her, she tried to play it off as a misunderstanding, claiming she thought we were still jointly paying for things. Right, because it's completely normal to take out $10,000 in debt for takeout. I don't know if she's living in some alternate reality or if she just thinks I'm the dumbest person alive, but this whole situation is spiraling into insanity. And where do I even go from here? I'm not sure. I guess the next step is figuring out how much more of my life she's going to destroy before we're officially divorced. Maybe she'll try to sell my car next, or show up on Dr. Phil to tell the world how I abandoned her and her disability. Honestly, nothing would surprise me at this point. People keep telling me to stay strong, but strong doesn't even begin to cover it. I'm just trying to survive each day without my head exploding from the sheer absurdity of it all. If this is what divorce looks like, maybe I should just pack a bag and flee the country. But hey, the good news? At least I've still got my duct-taped work boots. For now. Update 3. Honestly, I thought I'd seen it all, my wife draining our savings on takeout, the identity theft, the GoFundMe scam, but life continues to remind me that rock bottom has a basement and we're moving in fast. So, remember how I said she hired a lawyer? Yeah, turns out she didn't exactly pay the lawyer. In fact, she hired him using my credit card. And get this, the guy dropped her as a client the moment the charge got reversed. So now, she's representing herself in court, which should be hilarious if it wasn't my life we were talking about here. At this point, I can't tell if she's delusional or just determined to go down swinging in the most chaotic way possible. Either way, we're headed for a courtroom showdown next week, and I feel like I should sell tickets at this point. But let's rewind to what happened 2 days ago, which I swear was the craziest thing yet. I came home from work and saw a moving truck parked outside our house. My heart dropped. I rushed inside, and sure enough, my soon-to-be ex had gone full-blown heist mode on our stuff. And I'm not talking about just the furniture this time. She'd taken the microwave, the toaster, the freaking curtains, and, for some bizarre reason, all the light bulbs. You heard me right. This woman actually unscrewed every light bulb in the house and packed them into the truck like some kind of insane trophy haul. Naturally, I lost it. I confronted her outside, and she had the audacity to look surprised, like I'm the unreasonable one for questioning why she's stripping the house bare like it's the end of civilization. Her explanation? I need a fresh start, and I'm taking what I need to survive. I asked her what kind of dystopian movie she thought she was living in where light bulbs are essential survival gear. And she actually rolled her eyes and said, "You wouldn't understand?" "You're right, sweetheart. I don't understand. I don't understand how someone can blow through $10,000 in fast food, then proceed to dismantle a house like a burglar with a Home Depot fetish. At this point, it's not even about the stuff. Take the microwave, take the curtains, hell, take the front door for all I care. It's the fact that she's completely unraveling in the most spectacular way possible, and I'm just stuck watching it all happen like I'm in some twisted reality show. And because things can always get weirder, that night, I get a knock on the door. It's the police. At first, I think maybe she's called them on me to try and escalate the divorce. Wouldn't put it past her at this stage. But no, they're here because she called them, claiming I had stolen her furniture, the very furniture I bought. Apparently, she told them I'd locked her out and was withholding her property. Never mind that she was the one who emptied half the house into a moving truck earlier that day. The police were confused, to say the least. I explained the situation as calmly as I could, and thankfully, they seemed to understand I wasn't running some kind of illegal furniture ring out of my living room. Still, it was embarrassing as hell to be in this position, standing in my half-empty house, explaining to 2 officers why my soon-to-be ex had turned my life into a bad sitcom. By the time they left, I was drained. I didn't even have it in me to fight anymore. But the real kicker came the next morning. I woke up to find my car gone. Now, before you ask, no, she didn't steal it. I still have the keys. What she did, though, was call a towing company and have my car towed from our driveway to wait for at her parents' house. Yep, apparently she decided that my car was community property, and in her twisted mind, She had every right to just remove it from our home and store it at her parents' place like some hostage in a divorce negotiation. And the towing company? They didn't even ask questions. They just showed up, saw a crazy woman pointing at a car, and towed it without a second thought. At this point, I was so beyond furious, I couldn't even form words. I just grabbed my phone, called the towing company, and spent 2 hours trying to convince them that, yes, it was my car, and yes, they needed to bring it back, now. The car finally returned later that afternoon, but by then, I'd hit a breaking point. I called my lawyer and told him we needed to fast-track this divorce because I couldn't take another day of this madness. I also officially changed the locks on the house, and no, I didn't give her a new key. So, here I am. My soon-to-be ex is now camped out at her parents' house with half my stuff, while I'm sitting in a mostly empty home, trying to figure out how to salvage whatever's left of my sanity. The court date is next week, and honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm half expecting her to show up in a wedding dress or throw a tantrum in front of the judge, but at this point, nothing would surprise me. Maybe she'll bring a taco truck into the courtroom as a character witness. Update 4. Alright, folks, this is at the grand finale. I honestly didn't think we'd make it this far, but here we are. Let's fast forward to the court date. I walked into that courtroom, tired, emotionally drained, and 100% done with all the madness. I'd prepped myself for just about anything: tantrums, fake tears, maybe even a full-blown meltdown, but as soon as I saw her sitting there, I knew we were about to hit a whole new level of insanity. She was dressed in this weird, all-black outfit, like she was attending a funeral for her dignity, and she had this smug look on her face like she knew something I didn't. I tried not to think too much about it, but my lawyer caught on. He leaned over and whispered, "Get ready. I think she's about to pull something." Boy, was he right. The judge started going through the usual formalities when my soon-to-be ex-wife stood up and interrupted. "Your Honor," she began in this dramatic tone, "I'd like to submit new evidence." I froze. New evidence? What could she possibly have now? My lawyer and I exchanged glances, and even the judge looked a little confused. He gave her permission to proceed, and that's when she pulled out her ace, a pregnancy test. Yep. She stood up in the middle of the courtroom, waved a pregnancy test around like it was the Holy Grail, and declared, "I'm pregnant with his child." The whole room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. I swear I heard someone gasp, and it might have been me. The judge looked from her to me and asked if I was aware of this. Of course, I wasn't, because it wasn't true. I don't know where the hell she got that pregnancy test, but I knew it was fake. We hadn't been intimate in months, and there was no possible way she could be pregnant. But in that moment, she looked so proud of herself, like she just pulled off the greatest trick in divorce history. My lawyer, being the absolute legend that he is, calmly asked for a recess. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. He just knew this was her Hail Mary, her last-ditch effort to manipulate the situation. The judge granted it, and we stepped outside to figure out our next move. I was in shock. I mean, this woman had gone from fast food addiction to faking a pregnancy in a courtroom. Who does that? My lawyer was already one step ahead, though. He immediately requested a court-ordered paternity test, which meant she'd have to prove her claim. At first, I thought this was just going to drag things out longer, but honestly, I was beyond caring. I wanted to see her lie crumble in front of everyone. We went back into the courtroom, and my lawyer made the request. The judge, clearly tired of this circus, agreed. My soon-to-be ex? She looked rattled, but she tried to keep her cool. She agreed to the test, but the smugness was fading fast. The cracks were starting to show. A week later, the results came back. And surprise, surprise, she wasn't pregnant. Not only that, but the doctor also mentioned that there was no indication she had been pregnant in recent history. She had completely fabricated the whole thing, thinking she could somehow extort more money out of me in the divorce. When the judge found out, let me tell you, it was glorious. He absolutely lit her up, called her out for wasting the court's time, for trying to manipulate the legal system, and for attempting to defraud me. I had never seen someone so thoroughly humiliated in my life. The courtroom was dead silent as she shrank into her chair, her face turning every shade of red imaginable. And that's when the hammer dropped. The judge ruled in my favor on everything. No alimony, no ridiculous settlements, nothing. I was free. The look on her face when the final ruling was read? Priceless. It was like watching someone realize they've lost a game they thought they were winning. She had gambled everything on that fake pregnancy stunt, and it had blown up in her face spectacularly. But just when I thought the madness was over, she gave me one last surprise. As we were leaving the courthouse, she came up to me, eyes wide and desperate. "I can't believe you did this to me," she hissed. "I have nothing now. You ruined me. I just stared at her, dumbfounded. I ruined her? After everything she had put me through? The payday loans, the takeout addiction, the identity theft, the furniture heist, the towing of my car, and now the fake pregnancy? I couldn't believe she actually thought she was the victim in all this. So I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "No, you did this to yourself." And with that, I walked away. Now, I'd love to say that I rode off into the sunset with my brand new life. But let's be real, divorces, even the crazy ones, aren't that clean. I've got a mountain of debt to work through thanks to her spending spree, but at least I don't have to wake up every day wondering what fresh nightmare she's going to unleash on me next. And honestly, that's worth more than anything. As for her, well, last I heard, she moved back in with her parents. Apparently, she's still trying to crowdfund her tragic post-divorce life, but from what I can tell, people aren't buying her sob story anymore. She's officially become a cautionary tale, the kind you tell your friends over beers while shaking your head in disbelief.